All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0. How else are we going to enjoy the Panthers and the Oilers tonight? Amerant Bank Arena. Go pick up a six-pack of Johnny, your local Sedanos, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, European roots with that Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. Make sure you always drink responsibly, and don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us now, Jessica Blaylock, Panthers host. Always good to see you, Jess. Panthers, thank God, back from the 2-week layoff with the Four Nations face-off. I mean, I hate it when there's not a Panther game on. Is the NHL right now the hottest it's been since you've been working with the Panthers?
Oh, no doubt about it. And a huge part of it is obviously the success of that Four Nations face-off tournament. And I'm with you, Zaz. After 2 weeks of no Panthers hockey, I was like, oh, okay, when are we going to get back?
I hate it.
I know. And that's what makes it so much fun. But incredible games, right? That just really captured the attention of not just hardcore hockey fans that were going to be locked in anyways, but a whole new group of people who were like, holy cow, hockey's kind of awesome. And the USA-Canada games obviously had a big part to do with that. The Kachuk brothers obviously had a big part to do with that. And the championship game was unbelievable. Going to OT, couldn't have asked for a better overall product on the ice. And I think it's amazing to see how many people are now thinking about kind of locking in for this last little stretch of the regular season, because they're finally seeing what we see, which is that hockey is the greatest game in the world.
It was my favorite part of, I was on ESPN during the day almost the whole week during the Four Nations tournament. So it was great, where my favorite part of this, of the tournament, was being able to express, or to show everyone, to tell everyone what a great game it is, and just how amazing the players are, and how passionate they are. So it was a thrill to be able to share that with everyone. That was my favorite part of the Four Nations face-off tournament, was, like you said, other people being able to now see what a great sport this is.
I think one of my favorite parts of the Four Nations tournament was players that don't normally get a ton of love, like a Nico Mikkola, for perfect example. People kind of got to see what he can bring to the ice, right? Like, we know in South Florida, we know as Panther fans how significant Nico Mikkola is to that.
He's having a great year, by the way.
He's having an unbelievable year, and he is such an important piece of the Florida Panthers identity. But because he's kind of a stay-at-home, just hardworking defenseman who doesn't necessarily put up a ton of points, he's just not going to get the kind of love and adoration as other guys, right? And so I love that, whether it was, the 8 overall players that represented the Florida Panthers, whether it was a guy like Nico Mikkola, who finally got some attention, or whether it was just the overall success that the tournament had as a whole and the attention that it brought to the sport. I think there were just so many wins. And I think there's now going to be even that much more excitement next year for the Olympics.
Do you run into any Panther fans who are upset that Matthew Tkachuk is missing some time now from games that he played, which were technically an exhibition?
Well, I'm sure that, there's obviously people going into it that were like, oh man, okay, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that nobody gets hurt, right? And look at what the Bruins are dealing with Charlie McAvoy. I mean, that was a huge loss right at the beginning of the Four Nations face-off, and now they're going to have to deal with being without him for a while, and they're fighting for their playoff lives, right? So there's multiple teams that maybe it impacted what this back half of the season may look like for them. But yeah, I mean, it's a bummer to not have Matthew, obviously, because of just his skill and emotionally what he brings night in and night out. But I think the one good thing is that the Panthers are in such a great spot. And now you have players who have the opportunity to step up. You know, we saw it with Justin Sordiff the other night in scoring his first NHL goal, whether it's other players who have been consistently playing all season. And then here's the other thing, you know, just depending on how long he may potentially be out, does it give the Panthers a little bit of space to work with at the trade deadline, kind of similar to what Vegas did in recent years when Mark Stone was injured.
But in order to do that, they would have to put him on the injured list, right?
Yes, but which is to be determined because we're still waiting on you know, a full update on the health of Matthew Tkachuk, and we're obviously keeping our fingers crossed that he can come back sooner rather than later. But just thinking out the different options of why maybe if he is out for a little bit of time, it kind of takes that sting away a little bit, you know?
Yeah, Vegas did it with Stone, the Lightning with Kucherov,
right?
Both years against us. You're right. The Panthers should do the cheating thing this year.
Well, I don't think it's just a smart move overall with how you're managing your money. And again, let me make it very clear. I am not by any means saying that Matthew Tkachuk is going to be out for a long time. The latest update this morning is that they're still doing testing and they just want to make sure 100% what the situation looks like before they announce anything. So
is it weird to me with him on Fallon on Monday night? I feel like that was a good sign because if the injury was really serious,
yeah,
I don't feel like they're going to have and how much control do the Panthers have of putting him on Fallon? I'm sure it's more his management, but I feel like he wouldn't be out on television in front of everybody.
Yeah,
if he was dealing with a serious injury. Like, am I looking too deep into that?
No, I don't think you're looking too deep because even Paul Maurice said the other day, you know, they're hopeful, and so. Again, let me make it very clear. I don't have any diagnosis on Matthew. We still don't have a timeline. So I'm not saying he's going to go on long-term IR. Like, I'm not saying that he's not going to be back soon. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that. But I'm just trying to think outside the box of, okay, a positive spin you can put on it for fans if they are frustrated that they may not potentially have Matthew for a while, is it does give the Panthers a little bit of space to work with to add before hopefully making a deep playoff push once again.
See, I'm not frustrated with him missing the games due to participating in an exhibition because the games meant something to these guys.
Oh,
the games were important to these guys. If it was if Tyler Hero in the NBA bullshit All-Star game, if he got hurt and then was missing time with the Heat, that would make me angry. But this was not bullshit. It's an exhibition, but these guys cared very, very much. It was very important to them, and they were playing very hard. And so in that sense, I don't mind that. It's unfortunate he's hurt, but I'm not upset that he got hurt in those games.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one thing that we had Bill Zito on before the start of this tournament, and that's one thing that he made very clear. This was not an all-star game. You know, this is being able to put your country's jersey on. This is wearing your country's name across your chest. This is playing for the pride of where you came from. So these games were incredibly important, incredibly meaningful to these players. And because of that, they laid it all out there on the ice. And when you're playing hard, when you're playing competitive, it's going to lead to guys getting banged up. So, and again, I think the one good thing with the Panthers is this team so firmly and clearly knows who they are. They know their identity. They know the right way to play. They know how to play when they have to deal with injuries. You know, they've done it when Barkov was out of the lineup. They did it last year to start the season with no Ekblad, no Montour, and I think Bennett was out to start the year last season too. So you're missing three key pieces, and the Panthers didn't just tread water. They played really, really well. So this is a team that, yeah, injuries are going to happen, and it hurts to not have Matthew, but this is a team that knows themselves so well. They know how to step up in the absence of a key player. And I think the one thing you're seeing, not only going into the break, but these last two games, even though they split, 1-1 against Seattle and Nashville, they're looking like Florida Panther hockey, right? A strong forecheck, locking it down defensively. It was great to see some secondary scoring the other night. It was great to see special teams and what the PK and what the power play has done over the last handful of games. So
the big thing for me, what's the big thing I'm looking out for here? Like you say, getting back to playing Panther hockey. I need them to get back to a place where when the game is tied, or especially if the Panthers have a 1-goal lead going into the third period, we shut them down. Like last year, if the Panthers have a 1-goal lead or the game is tied, the third period's theirs.
Right.
And it hasn't been like that this year.
Yeah, there's been a few games throughout the course of this season where a third period lead got away. A team got themselves back into it in the third period. But I think part of that, like I think you saw that in more the first couple months of the season. And I think part of it was you were incorporating new players in, especially when it came to the blue liners. You were kind of figuring out what some new lines looked like with the addition of guys like AJ Greer and Jesper Boquist and kind of figuring out where those players worked. So I think that when you have an off season where changes are made with player personnel and you lose important pieces like Brandon Montour, like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who was great last year for the Panthers, you're going to see stretches where things don't always look like what you exactly saw from last season. And then I think you also factor in when you're the defending Stanley Cup champions, you are getting every team's best night in and night out because they look at you now as the measuring stick for the NHL. So I think it's a combination of factors, but I just never really worry about this team. This team has the proven track record. This team has shown what they're capable of. Players have shown what they're capable of. And so I think even when you see they're a little bit more susceptible to maybe something that they were super good at last year, I just think they have the proven track record. So there's not really a reason to worry too deeply about something like that.
I don't know how many years left he has on his contract, but we know they're super close. They loved playing with each other in the Four Nations. Don't you have to figure if Brady Tkachuk gets to free agency? Like, wouldn't that be something the Panthers would look hard at? Wouldn't they want to play with each other here?
I know that Matthew and Brady would love to play together.
Right?
We saw it in that tournament, how much fun they had. I'm just really happy that I'm not the one that has to figure out all the logistics with contracts and contract extensions and what you can pay each player. And but I think if you just asked from a fan perspective, I think if you asked Matthew, if you asked Brady, I think a lot of people would love to see what a team in the NHL looks like when it's got not one, but two Tkachuk brothers playing on it.
The Oilers are here tonight. First and only trip of the season. First time since Game 7. Does that, like, for someone like Connor McDavid, do you think they're excited for this kind of game tonight, or is it more like, wow, I hate that building. That was the worst moment of my career?
No, I think that as a player, you come into this game tonight wanting redemption, right? And especially how the game played out earlier this season in Edmonton. What a crazy back and forth affair that was. And the Panthers eventually winning that one. It was just a bonkers game from start to finish. So I think you come in, if you're Connor McDavid, you know your team has lost 4 in a row. You know that the last time that you were in this building, you had to watch the Panthers hoist the Stanley Cup right in front of you. You know that the Panthers got the best of you earlier this season in Edmonton. There are so many reasons that if I'm looking at it from an Oilers perspective, this is the game that they want to get without a doubt, hands down, to not only get a little bit of redemption, even though it's a regular season game compared to obviously the Stanley Cup final, but you just want to be able to get your team back on track. So I think you're going to see a fired up Oilers team tonight, but look at the Panthers and how well they've played this season against teams that they have faced in the playoffs. They've got an amazing record against their playoff opponents from the past couple of years. So I'm pumped for this one. Like, there are just certain games where you get even more hyped than normal, and this is certainly one of them tonight.
Tonight's gonna be a lot of fun. I get hyped for every one of them, but tonight's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm sure you saw Gene Hackman, actor, passed away.
Yeah.
Don't really know all the details yet because I mean, look, he was 95 years old, so okay, like he's 95, but his wife was found dead with him and the dog, all three of them. So like they're ruling out foul play, but it feels maybe it's like a carbon monoxide type of situation. It seems very, very strange, but nonetheless, he was very old, 95 years old. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, relate his career to Hoosiers. So for one, do you believe Hoosiers holds up today? And number two, what is your favorite sports movie?
Yeah, I think Hoosiers holds up today. I think it's one of those sports movies that's always going to hold up with the whole feel good, you know, underdog, watching the way that movie plays out and the ending and all of it coming together. So yeah, I certainly think that it holds up. I haven't watched it in years, actually. Maybe I should watch it in honor of Gene Hackman. But favorite sports movie. Okay, so I'm going to go one for baseball, one for hockey.
Okay.
For hockey, I love the Mighty Ducks. Like, I grew up on the Mighty Ducks, and for someone that didn't necessarily grow up with the sport of hockey, the Mighty Ducks was kind of my introduction to hockey, and I'm still waiting at some point in a game to see the flying V or the knuckle puck. Actually,
I was going to say, you're waiting for the knuckle puck, yeah.
So I'll go Mighty Ducks for hockey. I just don't think you can beat the Sandlot for baseball because it's just like you watch it and even if you didn't grow up in the backyard playing baseball, it just reminds you of like being a kid and getting into shenanigans and adventures and kind of just that feel of when you're a kid, how pure certain things are, and you know, going to the fair with your friends and like going to the pool and having a crush on the older lifeguard, and there's so many things about it that just like kind of take
Wendy Peppercorn, of course.
Yeah. I will say though, my favorite sports moment is in a movie. It's not a sports movie, but when Leslie Nielsen sings the national anthem in Naked Gun, and like that entire baseball game in Naked Gun, to me, I think is the greatest sports sequence in a movie. So I know Naked Gun technically not a sports movie, but Leslie Nielsen as Enrico Palazzo singing the national anthem and then saving the Queen at the baseball game, to me, it will forever be iconic.
What are we watching on television these days when we're traveling on the plane, that kind of deal? Or have you finished everything on Netflix? What are you watching these days?
Okay, so what did I just watch that I thought was brand new, but apparently came out like 4 years ago, because that is just classic Blaylock right there. Oh my gosh, it was like a limited series.
Who was in it?
The guy who played Book in Death on the Nile, and U2's daughter, and it was about like the girl meets the therapist and starts having an affair with him, and like then she becomes friends with the wife.
Oh, that's not the show with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. Shrinking.
No. I'm gonna have to find it and I'll text it to you because it's gonna drive me crazy. But I just watched that. I do want to start watching, especially when they released the Nosferatu movie or whatever, and a lot of What We Do in the Shadows clips started.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
So funny.
Yeah.
So I want to start watching that one. So maybe I'll kick that off as my. I love that I like always get into stuff like 6 years after the fact. Like it took me to watch.
There's so much out there. I mean, you can't be.
Once I start streaming it, I know I can finish it. I don't have to wait for the new season.
Yeah, that's right. You can't be expected to know everything that comes out when it comes out. Yeah. There's so much out there.
It is going to drive me crazy until I figure out what. Okay.
I'm about to start watching. It just came out on Hulu like a month ago. It's released every week. I'm trying to start that show Paradise with Sterling K. Brown and James Marsden, where he's like Secret Service. The president gets killed. I don't know if you've seen previews for that.
No.
That's all over the place. I'm trying to watch that.
Okay, Behind Her Eyes is what it's called.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
It was really, really good. It's got like a little bit of a twist ending to it, and it's one that you think about afterwards, and you're like, "What?" So,
all right,
it's like 5 or 6 episodes long, and I had a day off, and I just felt like relaxing, and I'm not even kidding. I think I binge watched it for like 6 hours straight. Finished it.
All right, that's a productive day. There you go.
Yeah, very productive day.
What time are you on tonight, Jess?
Pregame show at 6:30 on Script Sports. Puck drop at 7.
Excellent. Should be a really fun crowd. I mean, it's fun every time. I remember I was there. I've only been to 2 or 3 games this year so far. I was there a couple weeks ago against, I think, was it Ottawa? Maybe whoever it was. Panthers killed them 5-1. And I remember saying
the break.
Yes, that's what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my son, I mean, just the building was rocking. Just it's jam-packed every night, and it's so loud. It's so much fun.
Yeah. It's such an incredible atmosphere, packed with Panther fans. And they're going to be loud tonight against the Oilers. You can count on that.
Great job, Jess. Good catching up with you always. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Always so much fun. Thanks for having me on, Zaz.